On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, there's simply not much to do but sit back and enjoy when your third stringers are better than your opponent's starters.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey! What's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, March the 11th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can also find the show on Instagram, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description, and it's free to join as always. A great little listener community we got building around the show. Of course, you can also subscribe to the daily Locked On Raptors newsletter, QR code on the screen if you want to go and click through there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, you can go to the link in the description of the podcast, drop your email in the bar, and you will get fresh, piping hot emails from me 5 days a week talking about your Toronto Raptors, Katie Heindel League at Large pieces as well. Josh Lloyd fantasy tips as the fantasy playoffs are rolling. Michael Shear every Thursday as well with his basketball poetry. Go check it all out. It's wonderful. All right. On today's show, we are talking about a Toronto Raptors 119-104 win over the not very good Washington Wizards, avenging the near victory turned loss against the Wizards on Saturday in a game that really showed off just how good the Raptors' third stringers are compared to another NBA team's actual starting lineup. Yes, we will talk about AJ Lawson and his big-time 32-point effort in this one of the best games a two-way player has ever had in the NBA. That's very cool. We will cover that off. We've also got to get into Immanuel Quickley, who didn't have like the loudest game in this one, but I think it's becoming pretty clear that nobody on this team plays offense quite like him. We'll get to that. We got the good, the bad, and the but let's start off, of course, with AJ Lawson, with the Raptors, bringing down the Wizards with a lot of third stringers playing a lot of minutes in this game. 119-104 again. The Raptors, of course, set a franchise record for rebounds in this game with 73 of the damn things, 28 offensive rebounds. The Wizards seemed deeply uninterested in winning this basketball game. They shot 36% on 105 field goal attempts. They, they refused to grab any defensive rebounds whatsoever. It was a game where the Raptors, I don't exactly think the Raptors put their best foot forward in this one. I think they played, a lot of guys, a lot of minutes who, in theory, should have tipped the scales towards the Wizards, who played their starters for long stretches in this game. But the Raptors' third stringers and their try-hard ethos sprinkled in with some of their main guys still getting some run, though not a lot of run overall in the grand scheme of things. 26 minutes for Scottie, 27 for Barrett, 28 for IQ. You mix in that, you rest Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick's out of the lineup, no Ochai Agbaji, no Jonathan Mobo. You're rolling out Jared Rhoden and Orlando Robinson and Colin Castleton all for 25-plus minutes. What are you going to do if those guys go and beat the Washington Wizards? And that's what happened. AJ Lawson, of course, is the star of this game. We got to give him some love, of course, as a CEBL guy myself. Very cool to see AJ Lawson, who just 3 years ago was playing in basketball games broadcasted by this idiot, by me. Now he's in the NBA putting up 30 burgers. It's wonderful. It's a great glow up for a guy who, has really put in the work. G League, two ways around the league, of course, the CEBL. Now he has 32 points at home as a hometown kid, going 7 of 14 from deep, 9 of 21 overall. 12 boards as well. Only the third time a Raptors bench player has had a 30-point double-double in franchise history, joining Donyell Marshall and John Wallace. Shout out to the broadcast for that excellent nugget of Raptors trivia. Very cool stuff from AJ Lawson in this game. And look, he's a two-way guy. We never know how long these sort of Raptors plus two-way marriages are going to last. Maybe he gets an NBA deal. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he gets another two-way for next season and comes in and fights for a job. We'll see. But regardless of the grander implications of AJ Lawson fighting for a gig, it's just damn awesome that he put up a game like this where he was just lights out from three, going total sort of gunner's spirit mode after the last two games where he combined to go 2 of 16 from deep across the previous two. Comes into this one, goes 7 of 14, and just the confidence he was letting it rip with. Like, that dude's a gunner. That dude has just like the shooter's mentality deep within his soul, and you love to see it. Of course, he had the big time dunk off 2 feet on a cut at the end of the game as well to kind of put the exclamation point on everything. Just very cool. And again, this was a game where, I talked about this yesterday on the show. The Raptors, I think, are trying to do this thing where with the way they roll up their lineups, with the sort of scaling back of their main guys in clutch moments, with the playing a lot of 2-ways in 10 days and recently signed guys who are maybe not going to be part of the long-term plans. They're trying to do this thing where they, get their main guys some run, but aren't putting themselves out of the conversation of losing these games. They're rolling out guys who, in theory, should be losing to NBA starting lineups, like the Washington Wizards. For all their faults, like those are, some of them are starting NBA players. I think, look, their starting lineup kind of stinks. There's a lot of Jordan Poole doing a lot of Jordan Poole things, but I like Keyshawn George. Alex Sarr's got some juice. But yeah, the Raptors third stringers, like in this game, they played enough minutes that it kind of turned a game that should have been fully tilted towards the Raptors into a game where it wasn't like a foregone conclusion the Raptors would win halfway through this game. I think the Wizards led by 1 at halftime. But if you're going to have games where AJ Lawson goes nuts and has a Paul Watson Jr. Memorial 30 burger, then like you just got to live with it, right? Like the Raptors, I think, put their best foot forward for trying to lose this game, for trying to at least make it a coin flip. And when your guys have the nights that they had, there's only so much you can do. I think Colin Castleton was pretty good in this game, all things considered. He's still kind of a strange player to watch, but 7 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 3 of 5 overall, getting in on the offensive glass. Like, I think he was totally fine off the bench. Orlando Robinson had 7 offensive rebounds in this game, 11 boards, 4 assists. He was quite good for his standards. Jared Rhoden, wasn't incredible in the starting lineup, but was a +10, played some solid minutes, had some stretches, some good defense here and there. Again, you play all these guys, all these minutes. Garrett Temple got 9 minutes in this game. If you can't lose to the Wizards with your third stringers, then maybe you're just not meant to lose. And the whole lottery standings of it all, you just got to accept that you're not going to be the 5th worst team in the NBA in all likelihood. Like if you can't enjoy a local kid going and on a 2-way deal and having the game of his life in his home gym, as a child growing up, kind of wanting to play for the Raptors. I just, if you're so consumed by the tank that you can't enjoy that, I don't know what to say to you, man. I think also there is some value to these like odd little wins getting picked up here in terms of kind of keeping things copacetic in the grander scheme. I'm pretty sure it's going to get more unethical as the season goes along. They'll probably in the last 10 games or so play very few people unless they're all of a sudden kind of chasing down the plane, which seems unlikely right now, which we'll get into in a second here, and the update on the tank standings after this one. But, there is some value to kind of these young guys picking up wins along the way and showing like, hey, like we can do this thing, and kind of keeping the core players involved and excited and happy to see the results come, even though they're not playing in these high leverage moments. Like Michael Grange wrote about this in his really excellent gamer after the game last night. Just the value of, hey, like there is a positive effect to winning that is undeniable in NBA locker rooms. And I think if the cost to kind of keep the vibes right over what is very clearly a season that the Raptors are trying to lose in down the stretch is a couple of wins here and there against the Washington Wizards or the Utah Jazz, I think you probably live with that, and you're just, you're all right with it. It's a cost worth paying, especially considering it seems like the Raptors are very, very unlikely to fall any lower than 7th in the draft lottery odds. A little update on the tank standings from last night. The Chicago Bulls win, which is big because the Bulls are the team that's kind of the boogeyman. Like the 10th seed is where you don't want to be if you're the Raptors right now, because, you could in theory accidentally play yourself into the 15th overall pick if you win 2 road games in the play-in tournament against the teams in that 7 to 10 range of the East, which right now they all stink. Like the Heat have lost 4 in a row. They're really bad right now. The Magic are kind of listless and seem to have really just kind of fallen off a cliff. The Hawks are the Hawks. The Bulls are the Bulls. Like that 7 through 10 range is really bad. You don't really want to be in there because you could, in theory, accidentally make yourself into the playoffs. And look, I'm usually in favor of making the playoffs. I think it's good. I think in this case, falling ass backwards with, 28 wins into a play-in spot and getting waxed by the Cavs in the first round, that's probably not, ideal for the longer term picture of things. And so I think with the Bulls winning, you feel pretty good. The Raptors seem like they're not going to fall any lower than 7th in the odds, and that is fantastic. The Sixers, the Nets, those teams are hot on the Raptors trail. I think they're all tied now with 22 wins on the season. That's going to be a rock fight to the end. Raptors Sixers Wednesday figures to be one of the most tanktastic games you and I, will have ever seen. Can't wait to watch that one. Should be fun. Not at all. The Nets beat the Lakers last night, though. That's a big one. That's the kind of update on where things sit. That 5, 6, 7 range is going to flip flop and change and be very much subject to, does a team accidentally have a 2-game winning streak and kind of change the dynamics there for the rest of the way? It's just going to be the deal. But if you're not falling any lower than 7th, which is a perfectly fine place to be in a flattened lottery world where the Raptors, the last time where they were in that spot, moved up to get Scottie Barnes, it can be done. I think, you make your peace with it and you move on, and you can't optimize every single thing when these other teams around you are also trying to be extremely bad. I think the Raptors, the way they're doing it right now, I know there's some disagreement and people think they should just shut down Scottie and Quickley and Barrett and Pirtle for the rest of the season. That's just not going to happen. They don't have enough available players for that to happen, realistically either. But the way they're splitting the difference right now, they're going to beat the Wizards sometimes. The Wizards suck. It's just the way it is. But they're going to lose some games as they have to the Wizards on Saturday or to the Bulls the week before. And, they'll rack up their losses that way. And with every Bulls win, I think you can rest a little bit easier and not fret every single win and loss down the stretch, which is great. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to talk about a guy who's been playing some damn good ball. And maybe last night wasn't his best game, but I do think some of his stretches in this one kind of showcased this guy is just the best offensive player the Raptors have going right now. We're talking to Immanuel Quickley and his ability to scale up coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Skims. Yes, this is the time where we talk about my underwear, and I love Skims. I am a huge fan. I got a couple of pairs sent my way by Skims, and they are among my absolute favorite pairs in the rotation. I'd heard a lot about Skims as a brand for women, and then to hear that they have a men's line as well. Very, very exciting times. They're absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend them enough. Super soft, super breathable. I wear them when I play basketball sometimes. I wear them when I ride my bike sometimes. I am someone who doesn't like to be overheated. I'm someone who doesn't like to be too sweaty and all that stuff. And Skims do a great job of making me comfortable when I'm trying to work out or when I'm just walking around during the day. If I'm going for a stroll, the weather's nice. So I want to go walk around with my jeans and my sweater, the perfect walking around temperature. Sometimes you got to have some good underwear on there for if you don't have good underwear, it can be really ugly and not fun and make it unpleasant. But Skims make it so it's all super comfortable and wonderful. Shop Skims men's at skims.com/LockedInNBA and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you after you place an order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop down menu that follows. Skims.com/LockedInNBA. Go check them out. They're very comfortable. Back at it here on your Tuesday edition of Locked On Raptors, getting into Immanuel Quickley, who, again, last night wasn't his greatest game or anything like that. He played 28 minutes, 15 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, 5 of 12 from the field, 3 of 9 from downtown. It wasn't like he ripped the cords like he did on Friday against the Jazz, for example, where he was lights out. But I do think just the way the Raptors play when Immanuel Quickley is on the floor, now that he's kind of settling into things, now that he is finding a rhythm, he's not holding the ball too long, he's getting the Raptors into their stuff, he's making creative passes, or he's getting into his own offense and getting to looks quickly, for, not intending the pun there at all. It's just, the name is very apt with him. And I think we're just seeing that Quickley is scaling up. He is, having a career high usage right now. The efficiency has come along with it. He's flirting with the career best efficiency rate in terms of true shooting and all of this stuff. He's making it happen. He's been playing really good basketball of late. And I think it's pretty clear at this point as Scottie Barnes goes through his struggles. And I think Scottie Barnes will be fine. We're going to talk about Scottie coming up later on in the show. I'm not worried about Scottie in the grand scheme of things by any means, but I do think it's pretty clear when you watch this team play, the most additive offensive player they have right now is Immanuel Quickley. His three-point shooting is just so damn elite and floor changing for everybody else out there. It just alters the geometry of how defenses have to deal with the Raptors. There was even even when he's not touching the ball, there was a situation in last night's game where Quickley just kind of goes over to screen for Scottie Barnes. And it wasn't even really a screen. He just kind of walked into his general vicinity. But because the two defenders involved were so worried about Quickley kind of flaring out for three as he does so often, it just kind of freed Scottie up for a straight line drive as the defense was occupied with split attention for an easy bucket. Like, he just makes things easier for everybody, even when he's not touching the ball. But when he's touching the ball, he's doing a lot of good things right now. If you go to his clean the glass page, his sort of offensive overview, there's a lot of orange on that clean the glass page. Orange, good on cleaning the glass. He's doing a lot right now to drive positive offense when he's on the floor. He's in the top 10 in terms of assist percentage among guards per clean the glass. He's in the top 20% among guards in avoiding turnovers. He's doing it on a higher usage than he's ever had. Again, he's at nearly 58% true shooting. He's got a career high free throw rate. Like, the offense is very much there for Quickley right now. And again, on a per 36-minute basis, which I think is a better metric to evaluate him on than his per minutes, because, he's been on the minutes restriction. He's left, a bunch of games this season early. So it's kind of suppressed the minutes total that way. But he's at like 22, 5, and 7 on 58% true shooting per 36 minutes. That's excellent. Like, that is totally in line with what you're paying him at $32.5 million to be a right now average level starting guard in the NBA. If that's what he's giving you, I think you're thrilled. And I think the defensive stuff with him has come along as well. A couple nice possessions last night, kind of sticking with Jordan Poole, forcing a miss. He got beat by Jordan Poole a couple times as well. You're not going to be 100% perfect as a guard defender all the time. Guards are very good. Even the bad guards are good in the NBA. But I think we're just seeing a guy who is settling in and very clearly playing the best offensive basketball of anybody on the team. You can make the case for RJ Barrett, sure. He's been very good this season, but Quickley's efficiency still outstrips him. And I think, the three-point shooting, again, it's just such a dynamic skill to have that changes the dimensions of the floor for everybody else. RJ Barrett's not doing that. RJ does a lot of very good things in his own right. But the way Quickley is playing right now, he's the best offensive player this team has to offer. And look, that's not like a great thing overall. If Immanuel Quickley is your best offensive player, you're probably not in great shape. And I love Immanuel Quickley, but he's not someone who is your clear lead offensive hub or anything like that. I think he's probably more of like a second, third option who stirs the drink. And again, the three-point shooting just kind of always gives him a baseline of pretty good, because the way he gets his shots off, the types of threes he takes, the clip at which he makes them, it's such a game-changing skill set in the modern NBA. It just gives him a baseline of effective and helpful no matter what he's doing. But yeah, like I think the way he's creating for others, the way the floater seems to be coming back, and boy, oh boy, is that coming back big time. He seems confident in it. He's been hitting it like crazy of late. The overall season numbers still aren't awesome, but they're coming around because he's been on a heater, kind of getting back to that floater range, which was always a thing he could lean on when he was with the Knicks. It kind of fell off when he came to the Raptors, and it's coming back into form. I just think, obviously Brandon Ingram probably takes up the mantle as the best offensive player on this team once he returns. But I still think Quickley for the next handful of years is going to be one of the most important offensive players on this team, bar none, because of the skills he brings to the table. And I do think he's showing real strides as a creative playmaker, while again being a merchant of ball security. He just doesn't kick it over. He doesn't make stupid passes. He doesn't throw things away. He's just constantly kind of making the right play. I've used the comparison. He's like a hybrid of TJ Ford and Jose Calderon a lot. Calderon with the three-point shooting and the ball security and the playmaking. TJ Ford with the lightning quick speed. Like, I actually think that's kind of an apt comparison here. Never going to be like a high-end all-star. Maybe he sneaks into an all-star game or something like that here, at some point down the line. But just the things he does on the floor as your lead guard, if you have other sort of creative wings around him who can take on some of the burden, which the Raptors very much do, I think you're putting him in a really good position to continue what we've seen, where, again, career high usage, flirting with a career high in terms of true shooting percentage, in terms of points per shot attempt, all of this stuff, it's scaled up. That is the biggest single question. Anytime you get a guard or a player who looks good in a smaller sample, in a smaller context, in a smaller role, the number one question when you enhance that role is, will the efficiency scale? Can this guy do what he's done in the small, sort of condensed role in a broader role? And right now, Quickley's doing it. That's fantastic. That is really all you could have hoped for coming into this season in his first full year with the Raptors on this first year of this new deal. I'm feeling very good about where Quickley's at right now. And again, he's not going to be the best offensive player on a serious championship contending team. No, the Raptors need more than that, but they've gone out and gotten more than that. They've got Brandon Ingram. Scottie Barnes, I think we'll talk about him later. I think in a more complementary offensive role is going to be freed up to just do the things he does well and do them more often. I think that's going to make him a more effective, positive play driving offensive player. Quickley is a guy who just kind of sets the table for everybody. It's great. The 3-point shooting makes life easier on every single guy he plays with, and the stuff he does with the ball in his hands is doing that as well. Again, March is not really the time to properly evaluate guys. This would be different if Quickley was only doing this within March, as things have gotten very unserious this last week or two. But he was doing this throughout February after he got healthy. There's a very clear correlation between he gets fully healthy around January 31st after missing some time in January after coming back for a brief stretch. He's been healthy since then, and he's only gotten better, and he's kind of steamrolling at this point. And it's awesome. It's been fantastic to see. Immanuel Quickley, the best player on the offensive end for the Toronto Raptors, I think, bar none right now, and it is a joy to behold. More IQ, please. We'll come back on the other side, close things out with the good, the bad, and the We're going to talk about Jamal Shead with a big-ass yam, plus more, coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. Your home should reflect your style, and with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need in one place. We're currently doing a little home project right now, getting the room next to this office all set up to be a new guest room as we're welcoming a baby into the world soon. And so we're just doing, your standard workaround and figure out, get some new furniture, that type of stuff. And certainly we're going to be perusing Wayfair, from cozy furniture to stylish decor to whatever, to help finish that room. No doubt about it. You can find the perfect piece. Of course, you can go through all sorts of different options and great prices for you to go and pick the exact thing that's going to fit your space. And the site makes it simple to compare styles, and your order arrives fast with free delivery. All you got to do is head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Back at it here, wrapping things up on your Tuesday edition of Locked On Raptors with the good, the bad, and the We wrap up every single episode of this here podcast in the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game. A thing I liked, thing I didn't like, thing that's got me a little bit intrigued. From the latest in Toronto Raptors hoops, the good Jamal Shead with the putback dunk. My goodness. Maybe not technically the best dunk of the Raptors season. I think there's a Grady Dick special in there. There's Bruno Fernando, shout out Bruno. We were with you so little time on Giannis. Those were awesome. Those were huge, loud, just big old jams. But Jamal Shead at 6 feet tall, rising up and shocking everybody on the Raptors bench, including Darko Rajakovic, who believes, I think, in anyone doing anything. But I don't think he really believed Jamal Shead had that in his package. Just soaring in to throw it back down. Extremely cool and a really fun Jamal Shead game overall. Around the rim in particular, his burst in close quarters, it's really been on display of late. Was really on display in this game. Obviously was on display as he was the crunch time fulcrum for the Raptors in that game on Saturday that they lost on the fingertips of Jamal Shead, nearly putting in a game winner just over the buzzer. But there were a couple times last night where, he kind of does the thing. We've talked about this with Jonathan Mobo a little bit, right? Where Mobo has this really great ability to kind of blow by guys without much runway when he's kind of in close quarters. And Jamal Shead has the same thing. There was one last night where he kind of has his man right near sort of the elbow, and he just quick left, right cross in for a bucket, totally puts his guy in the turnstile and scores. Really good stuff from him in this one. Missed his threes. That's too bad. But, overall, 4 of 9 overall. 4 of 6 from 2 in this game for him. A good Jamal Shead game once again. He's been rock solid of late. The bad for me, it sucks, but Jamison Battle aggravates his busted nose. The mask kind of turns evil on him, and I think maybe made things a little bit worse in that collision with Bilal Coulibaly, which was freaky stuff. Glad to see Coulibaly walked off. Obviously, didn't come back for the rest of the game, but hopefully Coulibaly's all right. It seems like almost Battle got the worst of that one. And it sucks for Battle, a guy who right now should be absolutely cooking and getting a ton of minutes, but his health is just kind of getting in the way. It's actually kind of crazy right now. The Raptors are supposed to be in the mode where they're playing their rookies, the guys who are going to be part of this team long term. And Jamal Shead is the only one of their, haul from the 2024 draft who's even healthy right now. It's kind of remarkable. I mean, obviously it's opening up moments for Jared Rhoden to start or AJ Lawson to come in and absolutely cook off the bench. You love to see that. That's great. I would love to see if Jacoby Walter and Jonathan Mobo and Jamison Battle can kind of get back in there and get heavy run down the stretch, because I think it's a great opportunity for them. And I do think, as much as Lawson's has his moments or Rhoden will have his moments, those guys are kind of more entrenched in the long-term plans. Certainly these other guys could find their ways into the long-term plans if they keep on doing what they're doing. But this should be a time for those Raptors rookies to get a ton of minutes to log and grow and kind of, go through their warts and lumps. But, in the meantime, if we're going to have third stringers beat the Wizards, I guess there's nothing to complain about there. And the for me is Scottie Barnes, who, gotta say, doesn't seem terribly locked in right now. He still gets his counting stats. He had a double-double last night, 14 and 13. He does his thing. He has some moments where he looks really good, but it's clear he's not playing quite as sharply of late. And I really am not concerned at all. I kind of get it. When your boss says that you no longer are trying to hit your quarterly goals, the way the Raptors have said, we don't really care about winning. That's been pretty clearly the party line. I think the natural impulse is to take your foot off the gas a little bit. It seems like Scottie's kind of trying stuff out a little bit more, really kind of getting some tunnel vision with his post game, maybe just kind of refining the touch there. He's just in kind of try stuff out, throw stuff at the wall mode. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not concerned because I just don't think March is a time to be fully evaluating, in particular, core guys on your team. The fringe guys who come in and really have moments, that can be something. But the guys who you kind of know are part of the team, guys who are locked in, I think they're the most liable to maybe kind of, give it 80% down the stretch as opposed to the full 100, especially considering the team has said that they're not giving 100% themselves. I think at this point, the reason I had it as my is I'm just excited to see Scottie Barnes play basketball next season. I think under the new context that's going to exist with Brandon Ingram, I really think we're going to see Scottie in a more, like I said earlier, complementary offensive role. He's going to get to play, finish, and connect and do the stuff he does very well without having to kind of carry this burden as an on-ball creator, which he's had to do a lot this season to not very good results. His efficiency has cratered. The offense is just not really good when he's got the keys to it. It's a bummer. I think ideally you wish he could have become this clear, no doubt, number one offensive option, number one defensive player thing, but very few guys are that. I still think he's a clear max player. I think the defense is remarkable as much as the setback on offense has been disappointing. The jump on defense has been outstanding this year and truly game-changing for what he can be as a player going forward. And I do think that just in a new context where Quickley's playing this way and you've got Ingram to kind of carry some of that wing creation burden, I think Scottie is going to be kind of the best version of himself going into next year, where he gets to, again, do the stuff he's good at. He's going to look more capable of driving winning minutes. And two, I think he's going to be more aesthetically pleasing basketball player as well, because you're cutting out some of these kind of ugly, over dribbly possessions or the pull up threes that are never going in, that type of stuff. I think you're going to cut the fat quite a bit. Right now, it seems like the sort of last gasp of Scottie Barnes doing the old thing that Scottie Barnes used to do. Once Ingram's there, once this team is kind of hitting the gas pedal and playing competitive basketball, which again, I've said a lot, I think that's a very clear, there's a correlation between when the Raptors are kind of in competitive mode, Scottie Barnes ratchets it up. When they're not in competitive mode, he's not going to ratchet it up. And maybe you wish that everyone all the time was going 100% at every single minute. If you can find me an NBA player who is constantly, especially like a star NBA player, who is constantly at full tilt for 82 games a year, please find them for me, because I don't think they really exist anymore. And so, again, I'm not upset. I'm not concerned. It just kind of is what it is when the team has declared its reality. I think Scottie Barnes' sort of lack of being locked in specifically on offense has kind of followed that. But I do think the things we're seeing with Quickley, what we'll see with Ingram, the things we're seeing with, these bench guys, Jacoby Walter and the connection he's had with Scottie Barnes, the way they've played well together and had really strong sort of underlying numbers together. I think it's all going to just be a more harmonious team environment for Scottie Barnes to thrive within next year. And I'm excited to see that. This is not the prettiest stretch of watching him play basketball right now. I also think this is probably like the least meaningful stretch we've seen him play in quite some time, because I just don't think there's a whole lot left to be gleaned about him. Whatever your opinions were of Scottie Barnes 3 weeks ago are probably what your opinion should be now. Either way, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. Back again tomorrow as Vivek Jacob will pop by. We'll have some fun on an off day or teeing up the game against the Sixers. Maybe we will once again revisit tank strategery, which I know everybody loved last time Big V was on the show. We'll get to that. Obviously, Thursday, we'll break down that game against the Sixers as well. Probably taking Friday off this week as I'll be traveling and visiting my parents as I'm on vacation. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you so much for rocking with us and subscribing, following, rating, reviewing. Go to the newsletter where this week I'm answering mailbag questions all week long. One question a day. If you got a question, drop it in the Discord, drop it in the comments, whatever it might be. Just let me know it's your mailbag question, and I will try to work it in as one of the newsletter posts of the week. In the meantime, follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. We'll talk to you again Wednesday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.